Welcome to the Fractured Families podcast. I'm Charity, your dedicated parental alienation coach, here to guide and support families as they navigate the challenges of high conflict divorces and custody battles. On this podcast, we'll share insights, practical strategies, and hope for those on the journey toward healing and justice. Whether you're personally experiencing these challenges or just want to learn more about the complexities of parental alienation and custody disputes, you're in the right place. You are not alone. This is the Fractured Families podcast, where every voice matters and every story is heard. And if you find my conversation helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us reach more families who need it. Hi, thanks for joining the Fractured Families podcast. I have with me today Megan from Wisconsin. Megan's going to share her story of being alienated from her daughter from her ex-sister-in-law. She's going to share the update on how their relationship is today, how this happened, and how alienation doesn't just affect parents from one parent to the next. It can affect other family members. Megan, thank you so much for joining the Fractured Families podcast. Why don't you go ahead and get us started about what happened in your relationship with your daughter?
My daughter had my ex-husband and I had shared custody, shared placement, and it was like that for quite a while. She did go to school in where I live in Wisconsin for about 8 years. Her father and I had been divorced since she was 2. So she's 17 now. And we went back and forth a lot with her. It was fine. She has 2 sisters from her father's relationship. We remarried the same year to different people. Have been married for 15 years now, and he was married to another woman for 15 years as well, but they broke up. And that is what caused all of this that we had built with our lives together, but, like co-parenting. It was going so well for so long because I dealt with the stepmother, his wife, Mandy. And we were great friends. We did things together. We did things separately. We shared, we did holidays together, things like this. So we tried to make it as easy for my daughter as possible in this divorced family, this blended kind of thing going on. And up until 2021, 2022, all of a sudden I get told that Mandy is leaving. She's moving far away. She basically ghosted my child. And now, because he's an over-the-road truck driver, he was not able to provide a steady home for her. So he brought her over to me and said she's going to be here for full time. I said, that's fine. Great. And that was starting her freshman year here in Wisconsin. And everything was going fine for a while. And then she really started to withdraw and wanted to go back to see her father's side of the family even more. And she started to change a bit. And then I found some things that I found were quite disturbing. She wanted to be called Nicholas. Her name is not Nicholas.
Megan, how old was she at this point when you started?
At that point in time, she was 14. 14 is when she only stayed with me for about 6 months, but it just grew to the point where she wanted to spend more time at her aunt's house, my ex-husband's sister. My ex-husband's sister supposedly, this all came out around like the end of 2022 when everything started to blow up in November. I got a phone call from the school that she had seen some kind of film or something in a class that made her feel suicidal, and they wanted me to come to the school and talk about what to do with her. And it was really scary then, but I tried to remain as calm as possible. They wanted to put her in a mental institution. We have something up here called, can't remember what it's called now, but it's a popular place for kids to go when they're, in trouble mentally. And I was not aware that my daughter had felt this way at all. And then it started to come out that my child was being groomed kind of behind our backs. I did not know any about this. with the gender affirming thing. She all of a sudden started to tell me she was transgender. And it got really messy with that. And then I find out that my ex-sister-in-law has a daughter that now calls herself, they, them, and he pronouns. And all of a sudden this pronoun thing started to come up, and I didn't know what to do. I was really, up in the air with what to do with this. But this was all hidden from me. Apparently the people at school knew it. My ex-sister-in-law told me when this all blew up in the end of November of 2022 that she was feeling really lost, really at the end of her life. She felt like she wanted to be at the end of her life, and she wanted to end her life. And hearing that, I totally had no idea that this is how my daughter felt. And everything really blew up the night that we were all supposed to go to vacation in Los Angeles. She decided that she wanted to tell her father that the night before we were supposed to get on a plane, she had tried to kill herself in her bedroom, and that she wanted to, Daddy, please help me. I don't want to die. She didn't alarm me or her stepfather. Her father, who was over the road truck driving somewhere very far away, who couldn't physically help her. That's who he chose to tell. She told him. And I was really angry at that point. Coming home, knowing that we were going to go on this vacation that we had spent all year saving for, all these things, we were very excited to work on what we were going to do with her and have her mental health worked on. And this vacation was supposed to give us a bit of a respite from the normal thing. But we also had extra stress on our lives because my mother-in-law was also on hospice and dying at the time of Alzheimer's and dementia. And she was bedridden from wounds and things like this. And my best friend was her caretaker. So I heard about my mother-in-law's condition that was it was horrifying every day. And that added stress. So when I got home that night, before we were supposed to go to Los Angeles, I was very angry, and I probably could have handled myself a little bit better, but I did yell. I did freak out because I did not know that my daughter had felt suicidal until November. And then this all happened January 2nd, 2023. Less than 2 months later, this was it. So she wanted to go be with her father again, but he didn't have a stable home at that time. So we fought that night intensely with my ex-sister-in-law and my ex-husband about what to do with my daughter, because she did not want to go to Los Angeles with us. She was threatening to do things, just to be like, oh, I'll just find a way to get off the plane when it's up the air, things like this. And I was afraid of these things actually happening because my daughter had threatened to do crazy things before, and I didn't want that to happen. So we decided to take her over to her grandmother's house, my ex-husband's mother, and go on our trip and, give it a rest and see where we could convene when I got back. And that's what my ex-husband thought too. My ex-husband, or at least he told me that, we'll deal with this when you get back. Just go. So I was thinking of canceling the whole thing, whatever, but at the last minute we did decide to go, and we took her to her grandmother's house. We went on the vacation. I'd gotten several phone calls about what to do with her. We want to put her in Rogers. Rogers is what the facility was called. And so I had to set that all up while I was on vacation because they were telling me that this is how it has to be. My ex-sister-in-law was telling me that I have to call her by her wanting to change her name to Nicholas. And then all of a sudden it was, no, now we're going to call her Oliver. And my ex-sister-in-law was saying, you're not going to refer to her as her anymore. She's going to be referred to as him or they. Oh, she, you are to call her by that if you want any of us to speak to you again. And I personally believe that, I mean, I have my own, this has become a very political thing. I have my own political beliefs about it, and they do not align with what they wanted me to do. I said, you cannot tell me that I am going to call my daughter him or this, you know? And I'm like, you can call me God first, and then we can talk, you know? It got very heated. It got very like, who are you to tell me how I'm going to deal with my daughter? You know, who are you? And
But I
she,
have a question. So
yes,
when you started to recognize this, was your ex-husband aware of it, or did he become aware of it? Because it sounds like prior to this, you co-parented when Mandy was part of the equation, and then she leaves, and then your daughter probably had some form of connection with her, which unravels her a bit. And at
very, very
point do you
close.
what point do you think that your husband realized this, and was he opposed to it as well?
My ex-husband, I think he tried to stay out of it as much as possible. And it's always been, well, you know, he's has to deal with what he can deal with because he's an over-the-road truck driver. He's not present. He's present maybe a couple days a week, because he's gone a lot. You know, he's there as much as he can be. And everyone was as sympathetic to that as possible. And everybody did what they could with that. And I, you know, have always thought that, you know, it is a bit unfair, but we have to deal with it the way we're dealing with it. You know? And I do not think that he was really on board with it. It's my opinion of how he felt. I don't really know. I just know that he felt trapped, as I did in this, because his sister was also saying, you know, if you don't, she's never going to talk to you again if you don't do this. And you know, it's a really trapping, putting you in a corner, putting you on the spot kind of thing. It's very I would say it's like forceful authoritarian government, you know, trying to tell you what you can and cannot say to someone. Especially your child. It's just very overwhelming. And what do you do with that? How did this come about? How did we get here? But I do believe by my daughter's stepmother leaving, my daughter, who was very close to Mandy, she lost it. My daughter went a little crazy. My daughter, you know, couldn't hold it together, and she tried. And I don't think I managed to figure out how the gravity of the situation of her leaving was, because I thought, well, I'm here, I'm her mother, you know, she's going to live with me now. I mean, I saw my daughter very, very often. We had shared custody, but she went to school after age 7. She went to school with them, and then would come to me on weekends and holidays and things, because she also had a little sister that she kind of took care of, you know, going to school. They said, you know, we decided that I don't have any other children. I just have this one beautiful daughter who was helping with her younger sister, my ex-husband's youngest daughter. And we all agreed to do that. And we saw each other plenty. So I didn't have any issues with how often I saw her then. It was really a wonderful thing that we had going, a good system. And when Mandy left, everything fell apart. It really did. I didn't realize that it was going to fall apart that bad. And then when it came with my daughter's identity issues, I believe it had to do a lot with that. So the night that we took her over there to her grandmother's house, I thought we were going to pick her up after the, you know, vacation. But it turned out that my ex-sister-in-law went and picked her up and said, no, we're not giving her back. And we're going to file for guardianship, and we're going to put her on insurance, our insurance, and we're going to transition her to be Oliver. And that's when I had to start looking for a lawyer. I could not find, am I still connected?
Mm-hmm.
It says reconnecting. Okay, sorry. I had to find a lawyer to figure out what I was going to do. And that took a very, very long time. Nobody wanted to touch this case at the time. You know, this is like the beginning of 2023.
How old is she at that point?
At that point, she was a couple months away from turning 15. And they hadn't put my ex-sister-in-law, her aunt, did not put her in school. So she was out of school for like 4 months. They wouldn't give her back to me. I said, she's still enrolled in school here. You have to we have to figure out what to do with her. You can't just have her hanging out and not being in school. But my ex-sister-in-law kept her out of school for like 4 months. So she's still, she's a junior in high school now. She's still trying to catch up from her sophomore year. It's been a bit of a problem. They fought for her to get an IEP. I didn't know what that was. I was in gifted classes in school, so I had no idea what any of this was. But, I believe that was not the best thing to do for her, but it was all out of my hands. They were not letting me be a part of her. They weren't letting me speak to her. My ex-sister-in-law was like a gatekeeper, and I kept telling her to back off. This is my daughter. You can't come between she and I. And they're like, well, this is what she wants. She doesn't want to speak to you. She wants to be, here with her cousins, the one that's transgender too, and we're gonna, the night before we were going to the preliminary part of the trial, this is very far ahead. This is like November of 2023 now, because all of that time in between, I didn't know what to do. They said, if you show up to our house, we're going to call the police. I mean, I've never had CPS called on me, still never have. So thank God for that. But, they were threatening to do that. They were threatening, because I said, I can just show up there and get my daughter,
Right.
And there was a time where I hadn't heard from them for a very long time. So I did call for a wellness check because I wanted to know if my kid was alive.
Yeah.
And there was no, and they said, don't talk to us, don't do this. So there were some months where I didn't know what to do. I had my husband now that I've, been with for a very long time, try to contact them. She did talk to my ex-sister-in-law did talk to my husband, trying to, say, we need to do something about this. This is ridiculous. This is a child that, you're playing with here, and who's in charge here? The kid or what? And she really didn't help out in that conversation. She tried to say that I abandoned my child and that they were going to add that to the guardianship case. So she said that because I didn't try to reach out for a couple months, because I was afraid of being blocked, to tell you the truth. They kept saying, go away, go away. We're going to do something if you don't go away. So I'm like, what else am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
You won't talk to me. You're threatening me. I'm not going to try to reach out for a while and see if you calm down.
Right.
But they took that as abandonment. So I got an abandonment charge during the guardianship stuff. And that was the big joke, I thought.
Your ex-husband at this point is still neutral.
The last time I talked to my ex-husband on the phone, voices, not just texting, he said that he would not jeopardize his relationship with her by trying to help fix our relationship with her. And I told him, I said, the best we can do is keep communicating, you and I, and she'll like that. And she'll probably open up. If she knows that her father and I are talking more, she'll probably come around. And I had been texting her something every day. Then I'd let a week go by, and then, something, nice, a picture of her, because she didn't really get any of the photos. You take photos nowadays, they're on your phone. You have photos from years ago. And I'm like, my kid has not even seen this photo. So I started to send her photos and see, look how beautiful you are. By the way, she did decide that she is not a boy. She did decide to technically come back to girl world.
Okay.
And she did decide that her name is Elena. I'll say that much. And that, that whole thing with the names was horrible for me, because that's, it's crazy how I knew to name her this, because apparently most of my relatives that I never met that have been dead for years were named Elena. So it just kind of came up for me to do that. And they were saying, well, what's a name? What does it matter? Why does that matter so much to you? You just, just do this. Just do it. And I really felt that was the most trapping, is the best way I could say. But she did decide to come back to girl world, and, I had, during this trial for the guardianship, I had written in the guardianship paperwork that they were not to change her name legally. They were not to give her any hormone replacement. They were not to get her any surgery, because the night before this trial, my ex-sister-in-law was telling me that they were planning on getting her top surgery at age 14. So, well, actually she was 15 at this point. She was 15. So the trial came and went, and they
What
rushed
happened?
that.
Let's talk a little bit about the trial.
Sure.
How did that play out?
It was horrible, horrible. My lawyer apparently at the same time was getting fired by his firm. Did not tell me that. I found out the day after this trial. I called the firm up and said, can you get me a bill or whatever? Because they kind of went AWOL. And I went, okay, can you get me this? And they're like, well, we had him fired, so you have to you have to call him and get that for yourself, all this. So I believe my lawyer might have been able to do better, but I was grateful that he was at least able to put in these stipulations at the end of the paperwork for the guardianship that said, here we are, the plaintiff and everything, she is to go live with my ex-sister-in-law is now the guardian, and that's who you're going to talk to now. And well, how it went was we came forth and said, we're contesting this. And then the judge said, well, okay, when are we going to get this going? Literally a week later is what they said. Okay, a week later, we'll determine whether or not this is a guardianship or not. So a week later, I'm on the phone with my ex-sister-in-law, and they're saying, if you put her on the stand, they're going to look at you like you're a terrible mother. You cannot do this. She's going to try and commit suicide again, all this. So I caved and I said, fine, I don't want her to do that. I won't have her put on the stand. So let's talk about what we can, get done here. And that's when I came up with stipulations for, we're not going to trans her. We're not going to do that. I don't believe that children should be trans. I'll just say that much because, these kids are going to have a lot of regret. I'm anti-tattoo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I won't get a tattoo even at this age, because I will regret it. I'll want it gone. You want to switch back. You'll want to change your life. There's no decision that I could have made at age 14 that I would want at 48. You know what I mean? That's how old I am now. I said, absolutely not. We're not doing any kind of thing like this. So a week later, they determined that it's not, they tried to say that I was unfit because I abandoned her, which I did not. And it got really, really bad. But that trial took a whole 20 minutes for them to determine that now she's in charge, my ex-sister-in-law, and I'm to talk to her on Our Family Wizard and pay for this service when I could just text her, for free. But she wanted to make sure that there were lawyers and stuff watching. And during this guardianship, I found out later, because I had sent my daughter a card and said, can we please make up? And this was in April of this year. She turned 17 in March. And in April, she said, come on up and let's talk, out of nowhere. And I said, this is great. Yeah. Fine. So we dropped everything, my husband and I, and we went up there, and she talked to me for a couple hours and told me things that had happened to her while she was living with her aunt that she was technically supposed to tell me about, but did not. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with that. If there's anything I can do, if there's anything I should do. It's always a struggle now of what should I do? Because is this going to just get worse, or do I just wait this out? What do I do? It had been almost 2 years before she had spoken to me. Yeah. So when I saw her, I didn't want to dwell on anything. I just wanted to tell her that this is a dream come true. Thank you for talking to me. You're so beautiful. You're turning into this beautiful young lady. And she says to me, well, I think I'm non-binary. I don't think I'm a lady. And I just decided not to say anything about that and go, well, okay. But that's another day to be had. Because I don't believe in non-binary either. I believe you're either a man or a woman. There's no neither. And that's dangerous in these days with the political things that are going on. And, you know, biology is there. You cannot deny that. So I'm just not into that whole thing. Anyway, especially for a child. For a child, I will fight for the other, the other side. I'll be like, you can't do this. Your kids are going to end up in more trouble with all these problems. And so I went up there and talked to her. And that's when she told me that. But she told me a lot of really bad things that I still don't know what to do with. And I don't know if I should just let these things go either. Because here she is 17 now. And she told me that she needed some therapy and would I help her get, that proper guidance there. So immediately I went home and I did research and I got her signed up with an online company to get her, therapy quick, because that is something that for the longest time when she was living with me, I knew she needed therapy, but I was calling doctor's offices and they were not getting back to me. I didn't know about online companies or companies you could talk to through your phone, like BetterHelp, things like this. So I got her signed up with BetterHelp and that happened right away. But then she ended up canceling these, she had a couple of the sessions, but then she ended up canceling a couple of the sessions. And now we decided that she, after school is over and maybe during the summer, we'll get her signed up with therapy. But I had a moment where I felt like a hero, like I finally was able to do something for my kid again and be in her life again. And I talked to her father on Mother's Day and he said, well, you're texting her too much. And I was like, I know she's a regular teenager. I know in general, I'm the uncool person right now. Parents are the most uncool people at this age now. I know that.
Definitely.
But, it's hard to separate like what is going on, and I did take that into account. Yes, she is a teenager. Hopefully she will come around soon, but she has not read my messages since the end of April. Now we're at the end. It's been about a month since she's read my messages. For the longest time I was blocked, and then all of a sudden I wasn't blocked and my messages started to get delivered. And then I told her father, I said, we basically made up. I thought she had me come up there because he didn't even know. He didn't know that. So he said, oh, well, great. Now I can start telling you things. I honestly think that he really had wanting to have us be. It was my ex-sister-in-law that really got in between our relationship and really wrecked my daughters and I relationship. And it was really, it's still a massive source of, I have to work on the anger I have about that because it makes me intensely angry and it's in the past now and it shouldn't. But what remains is that my daughter's relationship needs repair and hopefully I will get that chance. But, hopefully karma will help me out here with what has happened. In every way positive, because I have to remain positive. I have to get up every day. I have to I'm learning about how to carry this with me.
Of course.
It's gotten better, but for the 2 years that she didn't speak to me, I was getting up every day thinking, oh, it's a new day. But then remembering all the pain, remembering all this stuff that my only child is not speaking to me. There's no reason to. She had either lied to the court or maybe it was my ex-sister that lied to the court because they told the guardian ad litem that I was abusive. But then they didn't get into any further detail about how I was abusive. But in their eyes politically, they see that someone who doesn't immediately affirm this opposite gender as abuse. So I don't know if that's what they were considering. I don't know. I just know that they thought I was abusive. So that was part of the case too. But the case was really rushed through.
Did the guardian ad litem ever interview you?
Yes. The guardian ad litem called me first.
Okay.
And I told them as much as I could that they were, that side of the family was not speaking to me, not letting me talk to her, not letting me call her by her name. And it was just, you don't do this to your mother.
And did the guardian ad litem provide a report for the court for the trial?
She provided a report to my lawyer, and my lawyer said, I got the guardian ad litem report from their side, and you're not going to like it. And they think you were abusive, and they think that you're unfit, and they're going to go for the guardianship. And I said, you know what? At this point, are they going to try and adopt her? Because if I can't even talk to her, what else is going to happen now? You know, I was really scared of what kind of status my daughter was going to have. And then it turned out that they just let her do whatever she wanted. She was allowed to do whatever she wanted, and it was really about a custody thing.
So in your visit with her, it was a good visit. Was it just you and her? Or was it you, her, and your husband?
My husband waited in the car.
Okay.
He was there in case I made a signal like, hey, you know, we didn't know what was going to happen. It was, you know, we sat outside her grandparents' house and talked, and you know, I was able to hug her. I hadn't hugged her in over 2 years. And it was a wonderful moment. And I just hope that after school is out, you know, next week or in the next couple of weeks, because it's June, that hopefully she will come round. And because now she's 17, I missed so much time. And that's really what this whole thing that angers me is about, is because my mother-in-law had died in May of 2024. Up until then, I had been pretty, you know, consumed with that and dealing with my husband, who was not taking this all very well. It was really hard here. So I tried to do the best I could, but it was very hard, you know, working full time too, you know, with all this. And knowing that she had died, my husband was like, you know, trying to talk to my daughter, saying, I just lost my mother. I would give anything to be able to speak to her again. I'd have any more time. You can't play with this time. You know what I mean? Something could happen to your mother tomorrow. Not to try and put on the guilt thing, but really. So he tried to get through to my daughter many times. She didn't answer his texts either. But in the report from the guardian ad litem, they said that I was the monster, but he was the best ever. So I was like, really? Okay. I almost believe all this. No.
So do you think that your ex-sister-in-law knew that she visited with you in April?
I'm sure someone told her. And it doesn't matter now, because my ex-sister-in-law told me to my face that she was looking forward to not having to speak to me again. So I'm sure I wasn't going to get any kind of update. Not that I wanted one. I could care less about her. She really wrecked things, and she really got in between us. And we had a mediation actually in 2024. I had my ex-husband and her talk to me with a mediator at their courthouse. And the first thing I said, hey, I would like some visitation. She's minor. She's supposed to see me. You know, this is something that I really don't want to have to pursue in court. So I want to get this mediation here so we could come up with a plan so how I can see her. And he said, well, if she sees you, she's going to kill herself. So they keep using this as a emotional blackmail to get what they want. And I was told by lawyers, they can do that. That's allowed. Is it correct to do? Is it right to do? Absolutely not, but they do it. So I was immediately like stonewalled right there at mediation. And the mediator asked my ex-sister-in-law, why did you decide to give up the guardianship 6 months later? Because literally a month after we had this mediation, she decided to actually formally go through the court and have the guardianship terminated. So during this mediation, she was like, well, I'm going to terminate it. And they said, well, why do you want to do that? And she said, because Elena's life really overtook our life, and we needed to get back to ourselves and use our money for our lives and not hers anymore.
So where does Elena live now? With her father?
Yes. And her father lives with the grandparents, his parents. Okay. So they all live together.
So she's back in the home with her father, and this ex-sister-in-law no longer has guardianship, but your daughter is still alienated from that time period.
Yes. And I had told her, my ex-sister-in-law, I tried to be the bigger person. I tried to say thank you for taking care of her up until this point, just to be nice.
Yeah.
And that's when she told me, well, I'm very glad I won't have to speak to you again.
Perfect. I felt the same way. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's encouraging, though. Megan, it's encouraging that your daughter's back with her father. You have a good relationship with your ex-husband. She is still overcoming the trauma. I mean, it's better
It's
than
as good as it can be, I guess.
better than most. And he still wants, it sounds like he wants you to have a relationship with her, but he's aligning with her because he recognizes her delicate state, which is important because she is in a delicate state. She has been manipulated. She has been brainwashed. She has been through so much trauma, and the years where it mattered for a teenage girl to be with her mother were taken from her and from you. But she reached out to you. That's so incredible. And it feels like so many eons have passed since you've seen her. And there is a balance, to your point, a balance of a teenage girl and too much communication and a mother craving a relationship with her daughter. It's not a relationship in the sense that you want that relationship because they're already going through their teenage years. There's trauma there between the two of you of alienation. So, I mean, it sounds like you're doing the right things.
I get a report every week from my ex-husband. Granted, he says nothing's going on. He always says nothing's going on. And, what can you do? But I make sure that every week I ask him, how is everything going this week? And he always says that she's working on school. Nothing else is going on. So how I plan on going forward is kind of I don't really know. I mean, I'm trying to stay as happy as possible. I know that much. I'm trying to use the power of the law of attraction to try and manifest a relationship with her by being as positive as possible. I was very reluctant to actually do this because I thought that it would kind of bring the opposite to me through the law of attraction, but hopefully not. Hopefully we can see that I am feeling better than I did a year ago about it. So it is coming around. Hopefully she will reach out again. It was a shock when she started to read my texts again. It was a wonderful moment. And then on Halloween, I said, Happy Halloween. I had sent her a text every holiday. And I said, Happy Halloween. And she responded. That was the first time she actually responded, was on Halloween. She said, Happy Halloween. And it was a nice opening of a door again. So hopefully little steps towards some sort of reunification will happen. We did get signed up with a reunification counselor that I had found through a mother named Jeanette Cooper, who was alienated from her daughter for this gender identity thing as well. She's kind of famous. So I was lucky to meet her, and get this information. But the reunification counselor at that point, right after the guardianship went through, said, your daughter has no regard for you whatsoever. I don't think that we're going to be able to reunite you. Maybe we should try in a year or two and you should just go away. So we stopped the reunification counseling with her because she decided that this was not successful. And I was really lost from that. But, if she wants after school to get more counseling, I'm hopefully going to be able to trade for some time with her myself so we can hopefully have a relationship again. And I'd be happy to help out with this if we can have some time, because I don't know what she thinks our relationship stands at now. I hope that she sees it as something we can go forward as mother and daughter. Her father had said she doesn't have to answer you if she doesn't want to. And I said, well, shouldn't she though? I mean, don't you think she should? You really think that, you live with your mother. That's what I was trying to tell him. You live with your mother. Can you imagine not talking to your mother?
Right.
I mean, how does that make any sense? So hopefully he will see that, yeah, she should. And that's when he opened up a little more about his problems that he's having with my daughter. as well. And they are very similar. He's like, she won't do this, she won't do that. So I have to tell her, if you want this, then it's like a bribing at this age. She's in her late teens now. It kind of is like a bribing thing. So
And she's unraveling everything she's learned from the ex-sister-in-law.
I hope so. I hope she's unraveling it, and I hope she's not holding on to it too tight, because she really did wreck everything for us.
Well, Megan, I thank you for being a guest on the Fractured Families podcast. Any final thoughts?
Just keep thinking positive and doing things that hopefully will make the world, come around to that. These children should, be solid with their families no matter what. Keep positive outlook, keep thinking, that you can manifest whatever you want as long as you think about it that way, positive, so you can get that. Because there are days that I have, doubts about it, and then I have to turn it right around and find a way to go and keep going so I can have another chance with her.
Great. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being a guest on the Fractured Families podcast.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fractured Families podcast. I hope our conversation has provided you with support, understanding, and actionable insights to help you navigate your own family challenges. Remember, healing is a journey, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength. You're not alone. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more families in need. You can contact me on social media at Parental Alienation is Real, and visit our website for additional resources and ways to get involved. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep fighting for the family bonds that matter most. Until next time, take care and stay resilient.